Over the past few days, I've been getting ready for the new semester, and a part of it was reorganizing my Notion. And it's been 6 months since I posted my last Notion tour, so today I'll be sharing with you my updated setup that I'll be using for the upcoming school year. You probably saw me use or talk about Notion quite a few times in my videos. I currently use it as my main organization platform, and for those of you who haven't seen it or used it, Notion is basically an online workspace that helps you plan your days, organize for school and work, and just about anything else related to planning and time management. I've been using Notion since last year, and it has been my top productivity app ever since. Notion has functions pretty similar to Google Doc, Calendar, and Spreadsheet, which makes it extremely versatile and easy to keep everything in one place. Personally, I use Notion to make to-do lists, budget, plan for school, journal, and a whole bunch of other things that I'm gonna show you today. It can also be used in a team setting as multiple users can collaborate on the same page. This feature would be great for group projects for classes, clubs, or work. This is a reminder that Notion is completely free for students and educators, so if you are one of them, you can get the Personal Pro plan for free by signing up with your school email. And a big thank you to Notion for sponsoring today's video. If you're interested, you can sign up for free using the link in the description, and I'll also link my template that you can use in your setup as well. Without further ado, let's dive in. This is the very first page that I land on when I open Notion. I probably spend the most time here as this is my home base where I keep my to-do lists and an overview of my schedule. As you can see, I went with a relaxing green nature theme. In general, I spend a lot of time on Notion, so it feels really nice to have a workspace that looks nice and peaceful. All the pictures on my pages are from Google, Pinterest, or Notion's internal gallery. As a heads up, this is a brand new template that I finalized a few days ago, so you'll mostly be seeing the skeleton of my Notion. The first section on the homepage is a weekly course schedule. Especially in the beginning of the year when I'm still trying to figure out when and where to go to class, it's really helpful for me to have the schedule pinned where I can easily access. You're gonna see more of this later, but I color-coded each of the courses so that course 1 corresponds to pink, course 2 to yellow, and so on across my entire Notion. Once I get my courses finalized, I'm gonna enter in the course numbers, meeting times, and the location into the schedule. Below that is the meat of this page. Some of the things are pretty similar to what I had in my previous setup, but the main difference is that this one is a lot more condensed. Instead of laying everything out horizontally, I tried organizing them vertically into 3 columns to save space. This way, I can see the big picture and my entire workflow easily. On the left column, I have my navigation bar so that I can jump around different pages, and below that, I have a section for listing long-term goals and future events. Below that, I have a countdown widget from Indify. For my last Notion video, I got some questions in the comments on how exactly to customize and create widgets, so I'll walk you through how I got this particular one on the page. First, you will need to go to an external website like Indify. From there, you can sign in or sign up for a new account. Scroll down a bit until you see the countdown. From there, you can customize the date, the title, the background color, text color, everything you need to make it your own. Once you're good with what it looks like, you can click on the link on the bottom and then copy and paste that into your Notion page. And when you do that, make sure to select Create Embed, and that's going to insert the widget onto your page for you. This is also how I made the vocab list button and the weather box on the rightmost column. There's a lot of different widgets out there, so feel free to explore and use the ones you like best. In the middle column, I have a whole bunch of to-do lists. The topmost box is for things I have to do as soon as possible, and the rest are categorized into days of the week. This is where I'll be keeping track of my assignments, tests, and all the other things I need to do on a daily basis. I like having the entire week laid out so that I can be more flexible. If I finish something late or early, I'll be able to see how that impacts my workflow for the rest of the week and make adjustments accordingly. The far right column includes some note-taking areas where I jot down quick information. I've also linked the brain dump section to a whole separate page just in case I run out of space. Below that is a vocab list. This is a mini list that I use on the run. I usually put down words that I don't have the time to look up at the moment so that I can move them into my main vocab list later, which is linked to this button. Right beneath is a weather widget that you can customize and change the location, and once again, you can do that by visiting the Indify website. Below that, I have 2 more checklists for all my clubs and non-school related work. Something great about checkboxes in Notion is that you can drag and drop them into wherever you want. I can simply drag and drop the task into the day I want to work on it. The next page is for my classes. I listed all of my courses in this gallery, and as I mentioned before, I color-coded each class. Each class has its own color that I followed through in the checklists, the weekly schedule, and my assignment tracker. Every time I start a new semester, I make a copy of the entire database and rename it on the top. To show you what each of the course pages looks like, I'm going to try making a new page. I can simply click on the plus button and it'll give a blank page. I already created a course template, so I'm going to click on that and it's going to bring up my pre-made template. I first have some basic information listed like the instructor and the required text. I also keep my grade calculator here, which is linked to its own separate page. Since we use Canvas at school and sometimes the grade tracker there doesn't work or isn't up to date, I use my own tracker to accurately see where I'm at in the class. This is a super useful spreadsheet where you can customize the categories, a percentage of each category, and then the bottom, you can do some basic calculations like taking the average and the sum to find your current grade. Going back to our class page, I also have a series of checklists, and these are for keeping track of larger and longer term assignments, projects, and exams. So on the left, I might list all the readings I have to do for the entire semester, and on the right, I might list all the big assignments. I also keep a weekly overview of the lectures. Most of my lectures are once a week, and I don't do anything too fancy with it. I just list the topic of the lecture, any files, and comments. Some people will also take notes directly on Notion, but I tend to make most of my notes on Google Doc as that's always sort of been my system. But if you do plan on using this template, you can definitely use this spreadsheet to organize your notes. To do that, you can call up an entire page for each of the rows and use that as your notebook. Under the gallery, I have more checklists. As you'll see, I have checklists sprinkled everywhere on my template because I need a lot of reminders in different places to actually remember to do things. This set of checklists is for keeping track of the largest assignments of the course, such as the midterm, finals, final project, etc. This is basically like the checklist you saw in the gallery, but just pulled out into the main page so that I can see everything in one spot. Below that is a weekly schedule you saw on the homepage, and right under is my assignment tracker. Since I have so many checklists already, this is kind of an overkill, but I included it just in case I happen to like this way of organizing better. The first column is a progress, where I can update where I'm at with an assignment, and next to it is a course dropdown that I've color-coded. Let's say I have this reading I have to do for my writing class. I would put down what it is, when it's due, what type of an assignment it is, and any additional notes. One really nice thing about databases is that you can create multiple views or tabs of the same data. So this is my default spreadsheet view, but I can also configure it into a calendar. The assignment that we just entered in shows up as a little box in the calendar. Next up, I have a degree planner. This is a completely new addition for my last setup and probably one of my biggest pages now. The planner is going to help me track all the courses I've done, plan out future courses, calculate my GPA, and so on. At the top, I have a table of my GPA by year, and like the grade calculator from before, I use the average function at the bottom to see my cumulative GPA. Next to it is a grading scale used by the college. This one's just a simple table and not a database like the GPA tracker. This course tracker is the bread and butter of this page. I have 2 different tabs for seeing all of my courses and 4 more tabs on the right where I sorted the courses into different years. Under the All Courses tab, I'll enter in a course, what year and semester I took it, the grade I got, the number of credits, and the requirements that it fulfills. I can also open up an individual page for the course and enter in more information if I need to. Something really important if you're going to use this template, you have to customize the GPA column in order for it to calculate it based on your school's grading scale. This column is based on a formula that you can edit by clicking on the top row and clicking on Edit Property. Then you can click on Formula and change the letters and numbers. It works the exact same if you change this column to a number column and manually enter in the grade point. Again, you can take the average of your current grade points on the bottom of the table and also filter by different years to see your GPA as a freshman, sophomore, and so on. This is what I would do to get the yearly GPA and just copy and paste that to the GPA tracker above. I can also change the view of the database so that I can see all 4 of my years on one board. This is a really nice way to see the courses by semester and grade, especially when I'm doing 4-year planning. Below that is a requirement spreadsheet, and I create a different tab for each of the requirement categories. I currently have 5 main requirements I have to fulfill, so I made each of them its own dropdown in the master list. From there, I can specify what each of the requirements are. So for example, for general education, I have to do a science and technology course. So I put down what that requirement is, the course I took to satisfy it, and any notes. The first column is a checkbox where I can check off once I fulfill the requirement. The course column is actually related to the database above, which allows us to select a course from before without having to retype out the entire course name. You might have noticed that I also have a requirements column in the course section above. Here, I usually tag all the requirements that a course can fulfill using a multi-select. But in the requirements section, I put down which course I'm actually choosing to fulfill a specific requirement with. This helps me keep track of how I'm fulfilling which requirement, since some courses can satisfy different categories or double count in some cases. I also spend a lot of time renovating my journal page. So at the top, I decided to list some of my broader, long-term goals, and I also have a wish list of books I want to read, movies I want to watch, and the things I want to get for myself. On the right, I have a monthly calendar that I created on another widget website called Widgetbox. To get this, you can visit Widgetbox, make an account, and click on the calendar. You can customize this to look however you want, changing the background color, the text, the heading, and the borders. Once you're happy with how it looks, you can copy the link at the bottom and simply paste that into your page, specifying Create Embed. This is the exact same thing as the Indify widgets I showed on the homepage. On the right, I have a page for taking random notes. I call it Sudden Ideas, which is just another brain dump. The table on the bottom is my actual journal entry. I used to have a list of linked pages for this, but I think organizing it in a spreadsheet will be easier in the long run and allow me to filter my entries by date. To make an entry, you can start a new row, select the date, and in the column next to it, your mood of the day. I created different tags that I can select, or I can also make new ones based on how I'm feeling. I also want to start logging how much sleep I get each day, so I have a sleep column where I can see the average of my sleep hours. The next column is the actual journal part that I can open into a separate page. Here I have a pre-made template that I can summon without having to set it up again. I start out by putting an emoji representative of the day and fill out the rest of the information. First, I have a small dream journal for when I remember my dream from the night before. I also log the food I ate, a summary of what happened that day, and keywords. I have a timer on the top right corner in case I want to see how long it takes to journal, and the weather box, where I can update the emoji and what the weather was like that day. As a reflection, I also try to title my day and write a short one-sentence advice for the next day. The next thing I'm gonna show is the budget page. I kept most things the same from last time, but just changed up how it looks. I have a 4-year budget planner where I write down what I spend and earn for each season. This is a really nice way of seeing the big picture of how I'm doing financially across my entire college career. Next to it is a box for any reflections. This could look like telling myself to spend less during the summer, setting specific goals like capping the amount I can spend per month, etc. I use a spreadsheet to track all my earnings and spendings. Every time I buy something or eat out, I log the amount, what it was, and the date. I also tag it with the season and the year under when column so that I can filter by these later. Just like the other spreadsheets, I can open up a separate page for each row if needed to put in more information. I created 2 more tabs to see all my earnings in one spreadsheet and spendings in another. At the bottom of each table, I sum up everything at the end of each season, and I can use this number and enter it into the 4-year chart above. Another advantage of budgeting in a spreadsheet is that you can sort it based on different columns. For instance, if I sort by the amount, I can see the most expensive to the least expensive purchases I made in a given time period. This is super helpful for understanding my spending habits per semester, so if you're a student like me, this chart might be useful to you. This semester, I'm gonna be in a dorm that has a kitchen, so I made this brand new page consisting of different recipes and food inspo. I'll probably be eating at the dining hall most of the time during the year, but I wanted to make it a goal to cook in the dorm once in a while. With this page, I was going for a homey, cozy vibe with a lot of warm colors. At the top, there's a space for you to list your eating goals, and to the right of that, I linked some of my favorite cooking YouTube channels and websites so that I can access their recipes quickly. The main part of this page is the recipe section, which I organized into a gallery. Looking back at the menus I put here, I was pretty ambitious, and I don't know if all of these would be feasible in a college dorm, but these are some of my favorite dishes that I hope to be able to make easily in the future. For each menu, I opened up a separate page with the ingredients and the instructions. At the top, I can also quickly enter in information like its general flavor, how long it takes to make, and how difficult I think it is. I took this fruit tart recipe from Preppy Kitchen, I think, and all I did is copy and paste a recipe from his website and reformat it to be easier to read. Although this one's from a website, I do want to try and learn my mom's recipes for most of the Korean dishes here so that I can recreate them while I'm away at school. The final section on this page is a collage of aesthetic food pictures and setups that I want to try in the future. Overall, I think this page is a nice way to document and visualize the food you want to eat and make. Next up, we have a page dedicated to books. I did transition into Goodreads, so that's what I primarily use to track what I read, but this is a simple page to organize what I want to read next and my favorite books. On the right, I embedded the Poetry Foundation website's Poem of the Day. This updates every day on its own. I don't have to manually change the link or anything, so it's a convenient little way to get to see a new poem without having to find it myself. Similar to this, you could also include word of the day, puzzle of the day, quote of the day to make the page more interactive and fun to look at. I also linked my vocab list, which I make on Google Docs, and a lo-fi playlist that I like. That concludes my new Notion setup. If you want to use this template that I showed you today, you can find the link for it in the description box. On the template, you can hit the 3 dots on the top right corner and click on duplicate to make your own copy. I hope this was helpful, and another thank you to Notion for sponsoring today's video. I'll see you guys next time.